Hey Seth, can you hear me?
Yeah,
How are you, Jay? Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Cool. So I guess we could start with the Jazz Awards. If you could maybe just talk about what you have going on with the Gilmore and the Larry Bell Jazz Awards series.
Yeah, sure. So the Jazz Awards is new to the Gilmore in the last several years that I've come on board to lead this initiative. In the past, the Gilmore was founded in 1989 with a mission devoted to piano music, um, to both concert presentation and education, and then also to launch a major classical piano award in the States, to be the largest of its kind. And so over the years, there have been numerous, major classical piano Gilmore artist winners. And then a little over around 4 years ago or so, past trustee president Larry Bell wanted to see to it that he's both an avid fan of classical music, but and also jazz, and has studied music himself in the past. But his claim to fame was Bell's Beers and Bell's Brewery that he founded in
Hmm.
Kalamazoo and became known globally, basically, and ultimately sold that. Long story short, he bequeathed a very generous amount of $8 million to endow the now the Jazz Awards program named in his honor, the Larry J. Bell
Okay.
Jazz Awards program, and which consists of the Larry J. Bell Jazz Artist Award and the Larry J. Bell Young Jazz Artist Award. Um, and yeah, so this is the what will be the inaugural uh, uh, what would be the inaugural prize for this that is forthcoming now, in the very near future, later this year. And we're gonna anoint the 2026 Bell Jazz Artist Award recipient, as well as the Young Jazz Artist recipients, because there's one for the major, and then there's two which similar to the Gilmore Artist Award. There's two for the classical award recipients, and there will be two for the younger jazz award recipients too.
Awesome. So have the recipients been announced yet, or you have not yet?
No, no, the announcement, those announcements will be coming later this year. Later this year.
Okay. So how is the
Um,
selection process handled? Is it something someone has to be nominated for, or how does that work?
Right. That's a very good question. Yeah, the process for this, which differs from some other competitions, um, in jazz and otherwise, it's all behind the scenes. There's not an application or an actual um uh you know in-person competition between the pianists. This, like the Herbie Hancock Institute or APA or something. This is all more like in that sense what like say MacArthur or Guggenheim does behind the scenes, where it's the artists don't know they're under consideration. The only artist who will receive or know about it is the ultimate recipients. But yes, I put together a larger nominating committee that is a public-facing committee of people across the industry, from artists to people in media, people presenters, festival presenters, and otherwise, people in academia, people and so on. So really, and globally, because the Bell Jazz Artist Award is an international award.
Okay.
The pianist can be based anywhere in the world. As far as the, selection, it's not limited to someone just based in the US for that award. So yeah, so there's like 50 or so nominators for this part of the process, and then I request their and share the criteria and the details with them. First I have to obviously invite them and see if they're on board, and thankfully the folks I invited were all kindly agreed to participate, and we're very excited about it. And yeah, it runs the gamut. Obviously, people your audience will know from Bill Sharlap to Brad Meldau to Christian McBride, Aaron Deal, and Fred Hirsch, and yeah, a whole host of musicians and pianists, as well as some other instrumentalists. And then also additionally, other people in the industry you may be familiar with as well, and
Sure.
other facets of the business. Yeah. And then and that prize is for the major award is $300,000 that the recipient is to receive, to be able to further their career goals and have funds to do, whether it be recordings or whatever, just to further, use those funds to further their career. The
Sure.
first 50,000 is they can do whatever they want with it, take a vacation, whatever the case may be, or use it to, you know, help them with other expenses related to their career if need be. But then the balance is something I work with them on directly in terms of utilizing to, enhance their career going forward, and with projects they might want to do. And then with the Bell Young Jazz Artist Award, that is that those two recipients each receive 25,000 up to $25,000 each, 15,000 of which goes to furthering their music education in some fashion, and then $10,000 up to $10,000 that they have to use towards commissioning a new work, that they would have the exclusive rights to play for a year. Um,
Mhm.
and looking in jazz, because a lot of the artists do compose in jazz, unlike what is where that would be very much an exception in the classical world. It's not so much an exception, obviously, in the jazz world, even for young artists. So, so can tailor and discuss that with the individual artists to assist them with the work. It may be helping them and connecting them with a composer they look up to that could help them further their own composition chops, if you will, or working on one of their own pieces. So it won't necessarily have to be uh, commissioning another composer to write a new work if they'd rather use those funds to further their own compositional area. So.
That's cool. So like to be considered a young artist, is that somebody who has not yet recorded? Like what is young? High school age or
Right. Sorry. Yeah. So in the case of for jazz at this time for the inaugural, it's 24 and younger as of January of 2026.
right? It's always funny because like in the jazz world, like a young lion, there's been guys on young lion concerts that are in their 40s, like
Sure. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. It's I know, and it's yeah, and things are people's careers are even getting more expansive. I mean, the jazz world has obviously been that historically as well, that people don't age out of performing in jazz the way they do in some other music, although that's all changing in other and other
yeah,
music
right.
too, as we know. But the Rolling Stones are still out there touring, and Paul McCartney, whoever. But which is amazing. But yeah, and then we also do in addition to our awards program, the Gilmore has a festival as of 2026 where it's previously historically been a biennial festival every 2 years. But the last one was in 2024. But now we're going to an annual festival model as of 2026, which is a very exciting shift and something that is both great for the music and for the community there that is very hungry for
Mhm.
for this to be an annual event. So that's exciting. And then we have a Rising Stars program where we feature in the fall, what we considered, up and coming jazz artists and pianists. And you know, that isn't age specific, to be clear. It depends where someone is at in their career, but it, you know, I would say it's, you know, skews younger by virtue of its, for rising star. But obviously in the media, rising star, if you look at polls or something like that,
Yeah.
they're quote rising stars who have been out there for some
Incredible.
time. So it's yeah, these things can get be interpreted in all kinds of ways. But yeah, they're right for our sake, it's looking at, yeah, folks that are on the ascent and are more recently, I would say, if in most recent year coming to the public's attention and or breaking out, or poised to break out, I should say, in terms of the jazz world.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Cool. So I should be more aware, but the Gilmore, is it a physical location?
True.
Where
Yeah, it's a great question. Um, Physical location with respect to offices, but not we don't have a specific Gilmore theater. The what we do have is or wonderful, amazing venues and theaters that are already in existence in Kalamazoo, which is a very rich arts centered
yeah.
uh, culture there, despite its being a tertiary market at best, I'd say, as opposed to like one of the major markets like a New York, LA, Chicago, Boston, Philly, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's so the artists, every time they come and the audience there, the reception that they get and the experience they have has been so overwhelmingly positive that they're really glad that they got there. Kalamazoo, as you may know, because I see some nice guitars there in the
Oh,
background. I'm a
yeah.
guitarist myself. Kalamazoo's got some other claims to fame too, in that is the original location of the Gibson Guitar Factory,
Yeah.
which yeah,
Yeah.
which still exists, which not as a Gibson factory, but the physical space is still there. I've been by it. Uh,
Okay.
and it's where actually Heritage Guitars is
Mhm.
based now. So yeah, very cool. And then also in Kalamazoo, there's a great venue that we use that we just back in April presented Brad Meldau with Christian McBride and Marcus Gilmore
Sure.
in a trio at an auditorium called a theater called the Chenery, and that is actually originally part of it's part of what is a high school there, and it's the same high school that Abby Lincoln went to, and the first stage that she performed on
Oh, cool. Yeah.
historically. Yeah, so I think that's very cool. But subsequently, yeah, I mean, major artists both in the classical world, from Yu Wang to Brad Meldau to Herbie Hancock and Terrence Blanchard and Maria Schneider, and and so many people have performed on that stage now over the years. And predating the Gilmore too, there have been major artists that have performed there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So do you think it'll extend beyond piano awards at some point, like a bass or drummer award?
I That is doubtful only because of what the founding mission of the Gilmore is. So it's very much like
Piano centric.
based on piano. But that said, as far as our festival and some other presenting we do, it doesn't, you know, the leader may or may not be a pianist. I mean, in most cases it is, but if it contains a, a pianist in the group, of
Mhm.
course, it's featured, then we've done things, for example, like Maria Schneider herself
Right.
isn't the one playing the piano, but we presented her her orchestra, and there have been other artists that we've had of note, whereby, yeah, it's they feature a pianist in the group, but that's a requirement, but beyond that, in terms of the presenting side, there's some flexibility there, to showcase, because there are, obviously there are so many great artists out there that also have pianists in their band who are great, that would be a shame not to be able to include some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, like, if you could, because there's a lot here. I'm looking at your bio.
Oh,
If you could kind of just talk about your background and like, uh,
sure,
particularly in the jazz world, just so people have some context as to who you are.
sure. My pleasure. So I originally got in the business early on, and come to it, and I still am very much identify as a musician myself, as a guitarist also.
Yeah.
Um, and I went to school for music and business at NYU, in terms of, so I have a degree in music. Um, and but then I started, I was both performing and working in the business. I started originally. I'll condense 30 plus years in real brief segment, but basically, yeah. At the end of my college years, I interned at Columbia Records in their jazz department under George Butler, and then subsequently uh, went working on the product. I actually worked for uh, a little under a year for his producer Jelly Bean Benitez. After that was my first official job, helping to run his music publishing company, because he had tracks, not so much jazz, but Whitney Houston, Love Will Save the Day, and Madonna Holiday, and a bunch of other stuff that he produced. But but then I got back very much in the jazz thing. Was working on the label side of things briefly before I had an opportunity to then go on the presenting side and be an agent. Well, sorry, be an agent, but involved with concerts, I should say. I was later, I went on the presenting side. But yeah, as an agent with Joel, Chris, and Chris and Company, that was in 90 92, I think. 93. I did, yeah, 92. And then I did that, was an agent, and ultimately grew to become his right-hand person, for the vice president of the agency, a small boutique agency, but we worked with so many major artists, from the aforementioned Abby Lincoln to everyone from Mose Allison to Tommy Flanagan, Hank Jones, Elvin Jones, and Kenny Burrell, and yeah, there's Joe Lovano, so many people back then. And then I, at the time, was able to bring into the fold their artists like Kurt Rosenwinkel and Mark Turner,
Mhm.
and Jackie Terrison, and Dave Douglas, and some others that we then represented, and their first agent, booking agent. But yeah, then after 7 years of that, I decided I wanted to be on the presenting side of things. Primarily, honestly, due because as an agent, you're often viewed as a necessary evil, in that you're
Yeah.
you're you're stuck, you're in the middle, both between the presenter and the artist, and first and foremost, your role, and is looking out for your artist and meeting their needs with respect to their touring out, and all, but you're also have to work within the marketplace of what exists in terms of offers and help ideally help artists continue to build their
Yeah.
touring career. But it's a tricky place to be in. There's often not a lot of loyalty in that side of the business. Not that there's not not that there's a lot of loyalty in the music business in general. It's just reality. But that said, it does exist in pockets, and with certain, there's history and certain great relationships that have stood the test of time, such as Ted Curlin and Pat Metheny and so on and so forth. But those are the exceptions, not the rule. Anyway, long story short, I met the original founder, James Polsky of Jazz Standard, before he sold it to his cousin Danny, the well-regarded and known restaurateur Danny Meyer. So in '99, I started my own company, left the agency and started my own company, Rebel Moon Productions, and then got became the um, programmer for Jazz Standard and the artistic director. And then that lasted for over 20 years until the its untimely demise due to the pandemic and unfortunately uh, dispute with the landlord that ultimately resulted in not being willing to renew our lease. So that was the long and short of it. Because to be clear, it was a very successful club year over year. We kept improving, and that year, January through the began March to March 13th, when we unfortunately had to close. It was on track to do very well again, and so it was a uh, real drag that was how it all that came to a close.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, and then along the way, I've been producing also, playing, but producing records too, and then also produced a concert series for the New York City Parks Foundation in Madison Square Park for over 15 years. The Oval Long concert series were presented so many great artists from John Scofield to, people like across genres, Suzanne Vega to Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings and um and Kenny Garrett and yeah, just a whole host of people. And then also was involved with producing the music station, producing the Big Apple Barbecue Block Party for over 10 years, which was a barbecue music festival kind of that was free to the public, but the proceeds for the food would go to supporting the Madison Square Park Conservancy that oversees that park and the Flatiron in New York. So yeah,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, a lot. And then like let's just you answered like 50 of my questions, which is awesome.
sorry.
No, no, that's
I
great.
thought,
No, that was a great overview. And it definitely gives the listeners a sense of who you are. So I know you said you started out with the intentions, I would imagine, of being a jazz. Well, you are a jazz guitarist, but you
yeah,
played on some records and with some pretty big names, right?
yeah.
Terrence Blanchard being one.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to, and I work with Terrence. I was Terrence's agent also early on, again back in the '90s, and for his career with Joel Chris, and yeah, he was had started already getting work with obviously Spike Lee and becoming a film composer and stuff. So yeah, he had a project he did that was I forget it. It was nominated for an Emmy. I can't
Yeah,
remember
the
the word. The Promised Land.
Promised
It was
Land.
called. That was, yeah, a documentary that he did the music for, and asked me to. He needed some guitar on that, and I was very fortunate to be able to play on
Yeah.
that documentary with the rest of his group at that time, which included some amazing players such as Ed Simon on piano and other great cats that
Mhm.
were in his band at that time. So that was a really amazing opportunity for me. But yeah, to be honest, I sort of hedged my bet. There are periods where I was just playing and teaching music, but for me, honestly, like I was always hedging my bets and working in on the business side too. And I had, some great gigs I had over the years that I played in some cool clubs and stuff like that. But ultimately, you know, um, the work on the business side kind of took more of my energy and attention because and I didn't enjoy the roller coaster ride of trying to
Where's
full-time musician. I just for in terms of my career, I enjoyed doing the business and helping other artists that are really deserving too. And I have and had harder time selling myself than doing
other
that
people?
for someone else. It's not my personality as much to hustle and be talking, be pushing for myself for gigs and in the way that that's what it takes, right? And that's not as comfortable for me as it is to happy to champion push really hard for for someone else that I believe in and all that stuff. But that's just the yeah how I was wired or am wired. So that's so I found myself enjoying I love to play and still do some gigs here and there and want to play more, but and do recording and stuff, which I still do. You know, it's more I enjoy being behind the scenes and having influence and impact there as well, and that's kind of more comfortable for me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had Terrence Blanchard on the show. I'm not sure if I facilitated that. Maybe I don't know if you had something to do with that. In fact, I'm not sure, but he was a guest. I did an article on him. Very nice guy, it seems.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
he's great. Yeah, he's amazing.
yeah, totally. Well,
And
that's
all these guys give back so much. Terrence is
mm,
committed now, he's with SF Jazz now too, but also has done so much teaching, which is awesome. How the elders and as people make their way, really give back to the upcoming generations in the music.
yeah, definitely. So I would imagine, and this is something like try to tell students. So I teach at a university, Monmouth University, where they have a
Yeah,
music business program, right?
right.
Shouldn't put that in air quotes. They have it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, of
but I
course.
try to impress upon the students, and I'm not part. I'm more the jazz history and performance side.
Right, yes.
But I try to impress upon the students who want to get into the industry to be at least musically knowledgeable in terms of like have an instrument that you can play at least on some level.
Right.
And I think that musicians will treat you in a there's a certain community and a certain maybe respect that will help you to get while talking to them. You could speak their language on a musical level, at least.
Mhm.
Is that something you found, having the background as a performer, and now like working with these major artists?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's been I was gonna say instrumental, but that sounds like a pun.
Well,
That
that's
sounds like a pun, and I don't mean it that way. No, but it has been for sure a big part of uh how I've been able to, spot talent coming up, say for programming, whether it be Jazz Dinner or when I, as an agent early on and bringing in some artists who have gone on to have very, amazing careers and are some of the best of their generation that I mentioned before, guys like Kurt and Mark Turner and Dave Douglas and so on. But so I think it's super helpful to have an understanding of language of the language of music and do you have to be like a concert performer yourself in order to be effective in the business? No, I don't think that you have to be on that level, but it really helps depend, and more or less depending on what end of things you wanna be in, but having an understanding and even just an understanding of if you've taken lessons on instrument and learned some at least rudimentary aspects of it, you also can appreciate and understand what the artist put in to get to the level that they achieve, not unlike a pro basketball player or Olympic athlete or something. It's it's very they have to go through very rigorous training, and it's a lifelong pursuit in terms of that, as you know. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and that helped me for sure. And there are a lot of artists I was gave some first major opportunities to in New York at a major jazz club, in Jazz Standard, like Esperanza Spalding did her first record release at Jazz Standard and performed there a number of other times, including a duo with Fred Hurst. That's where they first performed duo. They
Yeah.
ultimately and later on recorded a record at from the Village Vanguard, but that had its genesis at the Jazz Standard in terms of that duo and this invitational series I did with Fred. But then also Luciana Souza, I gave her first multi-night engagement to at Jazz Standard. Bill Charlap was another one, believe it or not. And then yeah, I mean Kurt Rosenwinkel too, and then Jason Moran and Vijay Iyer and um, there are a lot of artists over the years, yeah, that Donnie McCaslin, Miguel Zenon. So all that, I'm not saying that to name. I'm saying like the reason, I mean, it's really hard to be objective in terms of understanding, like, well, if I didn't study, honestly, if I didn't study the music or get into music, I don't know if I probably wouldn't have been on this path in the first place. I gather I would probably be doing something else. I can't even imagine that, but I'm just saying what happened, my path in working in the music was or happened very organically as a result of my passion for music. And would that have led to so I started studying music really early on when I was in elementary school and grade school. Like I don't know, it's hard to really say. Like, and I do think about it. I always ask people like who come to see an artist perform, or if I'm at a jazz concert or club, and I meet somebody like who's not a musician, how they come into the music because you know the vast, while there are plenty of musicians obviously who become fans and audience members for this music. Certainly, the music also has to appeal and does appeal to a general public as well, and we need that general public. So I'm always curious, like it's always interested in how you crack that code, so to speak, how you draw some, and it's funny because I did this residency at the speaking to that of the Mingus Big Band for many years, over 14 years at the Jazz Standard, I think. Um, and it was still going, at the time that the shutdown of the pandemic, unfortunately. But and the number, I mean, so many times that people would come or bring a friend to that show, and and I might, and if I was there and talking to someone, they might say like, "Oh yeah, my friend told me I had to see this band. I didn't, I'm not really a jazz fan. I don't really go to see jazz but this was amazing. I would come back to see, this was amazing. I'd never, or people saying I've never really been to a jazz show before, but this not what I expected, and this was great. And all this stuff. People have a lot of preconceived notions about it. But yeah, and I want people to ask me like, oh, if they didn't know the music or something, and like, oh, what should I go? What should I come here if you had seen, and obviously book far in advance, but depending on uh when they were going to be in town or something, I was like, you can't go wrong with the Mingus Big Band if that's your first introduction entree into the because that's like every Monday night was like another Saturday night in the club, just like so festive and so the energy was off the charts and just amazing music but fun. And that's the thing, the music is fun for people to check out, and I think more so now people realize that, and the next younger generations now discover music so much more easily in terms of it's not it's not cost prohibitive for them to discover music the way it was harder for us to come up in that
Yeah,
record.
there's a financial risk in buying an album, and
Yeah,
if you don't like it, you're like,
yeah, And the jet, and to be honest too, like the reality was like, depending on the record store, if they had a jazz section, let's say it was often tucked away somewhere else, you had to ask where it is, or it was in the upstairs, Tower Records at West 4th Street.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
sure.
upstairs, it was the third floor, and on one side was the jazz, on another side across there was the classical. So, it took effort. You had to know that's what you wanted to go check out. But now that, yeah, those, I think there's, in a good way, there's less a lot less barriers to entry. Obviously, that comes at a cost with respect to artists not being compensated as fairly as they should be in terms of streaming services. But
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but it is like it's as a jazz, as someone who teaches jazz history, and through this podcast, like a lot of the people who listen are somewhat new to jazz, and like the basis of the show is really, besides the interviews, I take a jazz standard, I break it down, and I talk about
yeah,
an artist associated with it.
it's great.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, a lot of times in my gigs, I'm not always playing in a jazz venue. It could be a bar, a restaurant, distillery. And it's amazing how many people, I didn't realize I liked jazz, but this was pretty good. I didn't, like,
Yeah, it's always yeah,
it's such a common thing to hear, and it's just like, well, yeah, man, but you have to almost experience it. And I'm sure, you putting so many artists in front of people is a great way to get people started. But like, how do you, like, when you have a place like the Jazz Standard? Of course, you have to put on people who are going to draw as well.
right.
So, because a lot of these names that you mentioned are bigger names now, and many of
Now they are,
yeah,
yeah,
many of them appeared on the show. But like, if you take like a Kurt Rosenwinkel, for example, I mean, he does just have such an incredible ability that it would be hard to ignore.
yeah,
How do you recognize who might be the right fit, especially if they don't already have name recognition?
right. It's they're calculated risks at the end of the day when in doing that, but it also started with um changing the format for how the major club programmed at the time, because back then it was just, a resident band on, say, a Monday night, if a venue is open on a Monday night instead of being dark or something, and then like a 6 night run for a headliner Tuesday through Sunday.
Hmm.
Um, and then the resident the next month, the following Monday, along with the next headliner for 6 nights. So that's very limiting in terms. And honestly, Jazz Standard was also a destination venue. We at the time there wasn't a ton of foot traffic, where nowadays it's very different. But back early on, it was a destination in that area on 27th between Park and Lex, believe it or not. And so but at the same time, so I looked at it and I said, well, we have to mix it up more. You have to create opportunities for artists coming up to help artists grow and people get to the next level, because ultimately, unfortunately, nobody gets out alive, and we can, no artist will last forever. Of course, so it's a matter of being able to help artists develop and grow in the marketplace, and really, I saw that as a responsibility I had in programming the room to give and find opportunities for artists that were deserving, that were coming up, that you know were hopefully ideally over time, as a presenter, you build trust with an audience and a reputation for what you do as a venue, and who people can expect to see, the quality of the music, such that even if someone doesn't already know an artist, it will hopefully pique their interest, if not to physically come there, they'll check them out online, maybe discover them and want to come the next time. It's definitely a process, and that's the thing. So all these artists didn't immediately sell out, but I was creating, like, okay, I can book someone for a single night on Tuesday. I can book someone for 2 nights on a Tuesday, do a 2 night run on Tuesday or Wednesday, or build up from a single night to 2 nights to 3 nights to ultimately, okay, now this person I think is ready to do a Thursday through Sunday run, because they've been building their audience, they've got this new record coming out. Oh, and at the time, let's say, uh before it was mostly independents, and people putting out their own records, let's say it was, Columbia or Warner or Blue Note or Verve or whatever, putting out releases. It's like, okay, this artist now got signed to this. This is their first, they might have put out a record on Fresh Sound or something, but now they've got a recording coming out, for example, with Kurt, we did his, first CD release with Verve Records. He had
Right.
released some other on Fresh Sound before that, but for example. But so it's, and then if someone is fortunate to have a team around, or develop a team over time, it's working all together to try and, you know, uh, and have everyone on the same page that you're all in it together at the end of the day. And
Yeah, yeah,
that goes the same. I mean, that's also the way I viewed, because on the one hand, New York City don't have this issue in Kalamazoo with the Gilmore, for example. It's a much smaller market, but say in New York, it is the toughest market for basically anything
yeah,
entertainment, because there's so many options, and then it's a seller's market, right? Because there's so many opportunities for any artist of note that, if it's someone who is known and can do the business, then why, everyone could potentially make an offer for that artist. And so you have to, yeah, and it does hinge on relationships and developing relationships and all that stuff. But I think, you know, it's the healthy mentality. I always think, when I heard it, I don't remember who even first was shared this with me way back or not, but it's like a lot of times in the jazz world, people are good at like eating their own at like,
true.
it's sort
Uh,
of not fighting each other, but just thinking that, everyone's got to fight for the uh same sliver of pie.
yes.
Like, no, the real key, and like, well, in any industry, obviously, but certainly for this music, is like to grow the pie and make the pie, can grow the
Right.
pie and make it bigger, grow the audience, and have more venues to play or what have you, then everybody can win. I mean, that's a, you know, it might be lofty, but it has happened over the years. I've seen that happen with the music. It's certainly gained in popularity over
Mm.
over over the ensuing years, I think. I mean, individual marketplace and individual markets in the country or elsewhere, it may vary in terms of that, and venues being able to be successful in jazz, depending on the population and all that. But overall, I think certainly, you know, even if you look at, say, Grammys as a, not that that's necessarily the best barometer, but I mean, like, we have had a number of artists, when historically it rarely has ever happened now in recent years, win Grammys for Album of the Year, like Esperanza Spalding and Samara Joy, and obviously Herbie did with the Joni Mitchell project too, a while back when that came out. But that's far and few between. But you see the rise of a lot of artists in the music, I think, which is great. And in your area, I would think it's interesting to see, right? And teaching and seeing who's coming up, the next generation from what you do and also teaching history in the music. I guess you see, how it evolves there.
Yeah, no, it is cool. And I mean, unfortunately, like there are some players I've gotten to work with who, more on their infancy level of their career and now are bigger names. And Yeah, it's incredible. But there are, like, I would imagine the names you're talking about and some of the people I'm thinking of in my mind are they have an ability that extends even just being a good player. There are some people who just have the thing, and I guess if you can put them in front of people at a jazz standard, even if they don't have that name recognition, it can build that way, right? It's the way you said the Tuesday night, then you start.
Yeah,
But it is an inclusive and a kind of a smaller market in terms of the global music market, and I'm sure those choices had to be made very carefully as to who to put where and when and what time of year and things like
yeah. I always, you know, my main goal, well, my main goal, I say, my goal was always, if I'm looking at calendar, because there's no off season when you're running a major jazz club in a major market. You have to did 7 days a week, three, maybe three, we were open like 360 days a year.
that. Right.
So, closed, for us, I mean, and even summer never closed, but we closed on you're closed on Thanksgiving, closed on Christmas Day and maybe Memorial Day, that sort of thing. But like 5 days. But anyway, but I always, you know, wanted to be inclusive with respect to across the board, and looking at any given month when I was programming, you know, I mean, within a week, try and do that too. But at the end of the day, like, we put a program out that was for each month we'd have our brochure for that month, let's say,
Sure.
and then a calendar. I was important to me as much as was possible to have representation across the both in terms of every way, be it fe- you know women who are in the music to obviously men, and then across the spectrum, just as diverse as possible within that, and then to also include within the music, like, Latin jazz, straight ahead, people that were pushing the envelope and going in new directions. And so, like, legendary cats, and then some of the legendary cats that weren't getting the gigs that they deserved, or the recognition in New York
Right.
sometimes that they deserved, and finding, just keeping them in the mix as well. So it was really it wasn't, it wasn't in it, but with I should say, with a clear curatorial aesthetic, if you will, within the music. Like, so it wasn't a hodgepodge or something. You know what I mean? It's like it was like very intentional in terms of the music coming first in terms of the quality, and how an artist would, and how the artists that performed there connected with an audience and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess
Can't.
ultimately, I mean, we're fans of the music too. I mean, you're putting people
Yeah,
that you want to
absolutely.
that you want to listen to.
Yeah, it's sometimes, yeah. I mean, I think of people that I want to see, but I also honestly thought broader too, that I had to also perform, program folks at times that maybe aren't the necessary the not because they weren't good, but might not be, you know,
Your
someone
favorite.
that would be like, oh, I'm definitely have to go see this tonight. Like, that wasn't what I couldn't only program from my own fan, because that I need to be broader. But I mean, I do believe, like, there's, you know, saying the cliche, like, there's two kinds of music. There's good music and the other music, like good music and bad music, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, really looking, and there's no venue, there's no one that's going to be, it doesn't matter whether you're in New York or wherever you are, like, who can be sold out every single concert every single night. That's not,
Right.
you're gonna have weather events, you're gonna have, like it's, even regardless of the artists themselves, it might be someone who would ordinarily sell out, but then, you get some dumb luck with a snowstorm or something where, it keeps people away, like whatever. There are just so many factors that impact, turnout for a particular show on any given night. And that includes what other things are going on in the city that night that may put, or on the TV or whatever, that events that could you know, the Yankees are in a World Series and you're in New York, or the Knicks are in a whatever, an NBA Finals or something, which hasn't happened in a really long time. But that's
Almost,
in either
almost.
event. But no, but they, you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
get it. Yeah, but I guess like, and then so the club thing is a certain thing. Like, all right, you have let's say you have a week that didn't turn out the way you wanted. You could it doesn't end the club, but
no,
a lot of what you're doing,
hopefully not. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of what you do with these more big events with multiple artists, like I'm looking here, April 2008, when the Pope came to visit, you were involved with putting together an all-day concert and festival, right?
Oh, yeah, that was.
Yeah, like
That
so
was
talk about
wild. That was that was
yeah.
a pip. Yeah, that was outside. That was, yeah, separate from the club. Yeah, that was the overall producer
Mm,
organization that did that was someone I had worked with previously, and yeah, they needed many producers to get involved, but that was such a massive, massive event. So yeah, it was like 30,000 people at St. Joseph's Youth Seminary at that time, and we had, I forget how many different groups, like 30 different groups that day, that led up to then actually Kelly Clarkson
yeah.
singing Ave Maria to the then Pope. And yeah, so that
So
was
like what
wild.
are the challenges of like, because to me that's like
That was
my trying to put together or being involved with an event. Like right now I'm partially involved with putting together a jazz festival in Long Branch. So we do it
great.
yearly because it's like a jazz foundation I'm a part of. But
Mm,
than that's 6, 7 bands. And just the challenges with that alone. We bring in some from outside area, getting
right.
hotel rooms, that kind of thing. But something such a large scale event, I mean, could you just like talk about the challenges of something like that?
Yeah. Well, large event in general, or that specific
Yeah, well,
large event in
in
general,
general,
because
because
that
you
was very unique. That was very,
it's specific,
a
yeah.
one-off kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, that was the last papal visit to the US as of, there hasn't been another one since. So, and I don't remember prior to that there was, there have been, but anyway, that was a very unique. And then that was like working with Swiss Guard, Secret Service, and like the highest level
Yeah.
of security detail too. There are so many other elements to something on that scale, but that need to be addressed and sorted out in terms of everyone's cooperation, obviously. And then but with, I remember one aside, one anecdote I think is funny looking back, but I remember it being amused by it at the time, not like funny, haha, but meeting the head of the Secret Service detail, who was there to protect the Pope and the bishops, have you too. But initial meeting we had with them, and coming and meeting the head of that security detail for the Secret Service, and saying, "Oh, very nice to meet you." And the guy was like, yeah, it was something along the lines of like, you're not gonna think that we're not gonna be friends
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this,
All
but once we get through afterwards, we can be friends. It's kind of thing, like this is all, it's just funny, just to set the tone right away, as like, this is, it's serious business, and we're here to make sure, above all else, that nothing happens on our watch, kind of thing. And but anyway, yeah, it all knock on wood, thankfully it all worked out very well. But yeah, as far as putting on a festival, and as you know, it's yeah, figuring out, the curatorial piece of it, and then how to promote and market it, how to get an audience there, because even in this market, even free events in this market, even if you're not talking about ticketed shows, even free events
Hmm.
have no guarantee of having audiences in this one, because there's any number of free events going on that people have opportunity to go see as
Yeah.
well. So it's even marketing, like, so like the Madison Square Park, the Oval Lawn series that did for 15 years, that was free to the public. It was paid for through sponsorships, but
Mhm.
so still had to promote it and look to get that, you know, out in via the media, be it radio, be it in print, in editorial coverage and so on and so forth, with anyone from New York Times to then Time Out magazine or something back then, or the Village Voice even, like, now I'm dating myself, but yeah, they do picks of the week or something like that. So you try and get that sort of thing. But then in curate, yeah, then you have to work with, budgets vary, obviously, so you have to see, like, okay, what budget you have to, what the budget that you have to work with for talent,
Hmm.
and then budget, obviously, then for the tech side of it too, because you don't want to skimp on either, right? But then you have the reality of what your budget is, so you got to make the most with whatever you have, and usually that's not usually ever a blank check in this field, really. So it's how do you, yeah, how do you put together the best program of great artists and music, and artists that people, maybe some that people will discover depending on the situation, that you can use to lead up to a headliner. And then I was always like, really care about the quality of the presentation, from the hospitality, from the interactions that an artist has with an organization in the first place, or their representative, for that initial call to them getting the offer, to then fast forward them being, when they first get on site, how are they welcomed on site, and same with an audience. um and then also with respect to the staging, the staging has to match the level of artistry, or even go beyond that, let's say, because if you're presenting, newer artists or something too, or situation, or younger artists that haven't played major festivals or something yet, you want to make sure still the sound for your audience, and you want it to sound as good as it possibly can, and look as good as it can, as well. So the thing with the one thing that we could never control, obviously, that was the most challenging in terms of outdoor concert series or festivals, is the weather. You're always at the mercy of the weather. And this summer, for example, and somehow at one point we shifted from we were always doing like this outdoor concert series on Wednesdays, and then we shifted to Thursdays at one point, because it just seemed like inevitably every Wednesday was raining for, like,
Just
or almost every Wednesday, and we're just like, and then Thursday would be beautiful, so we're like, oh, we're switching to Thursday, and then it's like, Murphy's Law, like, then Thursday it started raining somewhat, and Wednesdays would be, it's just like, then we went back to Wednesdays, and if it's just like, it's like, obviously it's all silly. There's no day of the week that is going to necessarily be better weather-wise, but we were just, for a variety of reasons, including the weather, we experimented with that, but yeah, taking, obviously, yeah, so there's so many variables, but I think, and it's, look, it's always a building process too, like, nothing, like, unless if it's like some major one-off event,
Mhm.
or charitable event, or coming out of some tragedy, like a 9/11 or something, where, a whole bunch of, like, Paul McCartney and organizing something at the Garden, that's, that obviously that's going to bring so many people together.
Right.
Um, so that's and there's certain, things that are unique and in nature, and will speak, and definitely reach an audience that will initially come out. But by and large, the normal process of things, it's a building process, and you start something, you have to know, and sponsors have to understand that, year one, we have this target for reaching for audience potential. Year two, we hope to get here, and then over a period of time, it grows and builds and develops a reputation for being something great to go to.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so like if one final thing, so what someone who's looking to do kind of what you do, be involved with artists, producing
Yeah.
events, producing records, things like that. What's one piece of advice or some advice that you can give to somebody when working with artists at the level that you are?
Um, sure. Well, I'd say, it comes out of, first and foremost, having a real passion for it,
Yeah.
and really, this, not to sound trite about it or whatever, but it, you know, you have to do it for the right reason, so to speak, in this music, because otherwise the challenges will get the best of you, so you have to know you're doing it because you love the music and you care about the artists and you want to make something happen. So if you're operating from that place,
Yeah.
you're going to find a way to do it, and make things happen, and you have to persevere, and it's about growing your network both with
Mhm.
the artists themselves and developing those relationships, um, and then also with the industry and stuff, and introduce yourself to people, and talk to talk to people who do it. Don't be shy to reach out to folks, um, and ask some questions or something of them to learn about some things, or if you have specific question about something you're trying to do, by all means, like I think people do, certainly the artists, if it's a musical question, for sure they're happy to discuss it in this music.
Right.
They're generally reachable on their gigs, unlike some other music where there's like, if you don't have backstage pass and what have you, you're not getting anywhere near an artist, if it's a major commercial artist. But in with respect to with jazz, um there is more, it is possible to engage more directly with the artist at time. I mean, you have to be respectful of their space and know when it's right to approach them or something. But if it is performed and they're kicking back and hanging at the bar in a venue, or signing autographs for fans or something like that, and whatever, obviously they're at that point, open to speaking to folks about things. But so I think, yeah, by and large, most artists are approachable, and by and large, most people that work behind the scenes, everyone, whether it's an artist or someone in the business, they were in a spot where you are in first getting going and starting out.
Yes.
But nobody, starts out, you know, already established. That doesn't matter in any of the,
Mhm.
in any genre. That applies not just to jazz, but obviously in commercial music too. Like, everyone has to start somewhere and build. But I think it is like, if there someone's in a university college program in music, and it's all about your peers, the people that you're surround yourself with, then are all working towards the same end goals, and trying to get out there and make something happen for themselves in the field. So it's good to stay connected with your peers, and then just, and then look to role model, who's figure out, like, I'll say, if, sorry, it's more than one piece of advice. The last thing I'd say is definitely what I think is important is also seeing, like, well, who's a role model for what you're looking to do,
Mhm.
and who do you see yourself, like, who do you align with in terms of, oh, this, they're kind of doing like what I would want to be doing, or their music, like their aesthetic seems kind of pretty similar to how I approach my music or something. So like then you can you reverse engineer it, so to speak, and seeing everyone's on their own unique path, but like, okay, where did they first start? Like what are some of the places they first played? What like how did they get to where they are? Because again, it's no one starts at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Everyone has to hike up there or get up there somehow, however that is. Like
Yeah.
if there is, and there is no top to the mountain in this, it's always you're always on your way climbing
Chronic.
you're always climbing,
That's true.
which is exciting. And then sometimes you hit a you get to take a rest on the plateau for a minute, and then you got to get back out and start climbing again, like in terms of, whether that's growing as a musician or in what you do as your next project.
I mean, did you have a specific role model in the business field, like a John Hammond, Norman Granz comes to mind? Is it like someone like in that?
There were, I mean, there were multiple people for me. I mean, certainly, George Wein being one that I got to thankfully to be close with, through my work, and first on the agency side, and then develop more closely and on the when I was helping run, and artistic director for Jazz Standard, and so on. But then others, when I first got into business, Joel Chris, certainly I learned a lot from him on the agency side, and how that whole side end of the business worked.
Right.
And my older brother's also in the business, so that
Okay.
that sort of helped in some ways too. And we talked to each other. Todd Abramson owned and booked Maxwell's in Hoboken for many years, which was a
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
major
remember.
venue, and he's also a DJ on WFMU as well on Saturdays, known as Todophonic Todd. But so he's been on the more rock, indie rock, and so on side of the thing forever, and he's my older brother, so he sort of paved the way with uh parents and
Yeah.
and
Okay.
like
Great. Two people in the
doing,
business.
yeah, like thankfully our parent, my mother was an art, like my mother wanted to be an artist and a fine artist, and she was great. She could draw amazing and everything, but her parents, my grandparents didn't allow her to go to school for that at the time. So I think that really impacted how she and my father, thankfully, I mean they're both gone now, but we're very open, like we're open to what we wanted to do, and didn't as long as we were serious about it, and gave it
Sure.
our all or whatever. But I did have to convince them though to let me switch from piano to guitar though, very early on, for because my because Todd was I got a Fender Strat. This is back in the 70s, and he had this little minstrel amp in the basement, and he had just a chord compendium book and would just bang things out in the basement. He wasn't taking guitar lessons, and I was like, so I had to, took me a little convincing, because they were like, no, 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 we're not gonna have another guitarist in the house, because and it's just like it convinced them that I could, yeah, that I'm serious, I'll take lessons, I'll learn, whatever. And so ultimately, thank God I convinced them to allow me to do that.
That's cool. So did anything else you're promoting, Seth? Anything else you want to mention before I let you go?
Yeah, well, I, love to share and let you know when we announce the Gilmore and the Larry J. Bell Jazz Artist Awards, of course, and share that, or maybe have you speak with the recipients at some point too on your show. But then also happy to share in the future the about the festival and the lineup for that as well.
Excellent. Yeah.
We didn't talk, there's a whole, because this is Gilmore focused, but I do have a whole other role as a senior artistic advisor with the Jazz Foundation of America too, with the Jazz Legacies Fellowship. That's a partnership between the Jazz Foundation of America and the Mellon Foundation.
Hmm.
So maybe that's something. Be happy to share info on that, or something
Good.
you may want to. Not necessarily that you have to talk to me about, but it's a very interesting an amazing fellowship that with a lot of great artists you'll be familiar with, and I could send you details on that separately
That'd be
about that
great.
too, in case you want to have some of those artists or talk about the fellowship and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, very cool. I'm in this thing, Jersey Jazz and Blues,
Oh
and
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
um, and Jersey Shore Jazz and Blues.
Yeah.
We're entering our 40th year, so it's very much, we look at other foundations, see what they're doing and how they've done it. So that would be of interest for sure to get some
Is,
advice on that.
sure. And is that also what I don't know if he's still involved, but was involved. He used to be Pat Martino's manager. Joe D'Onofrio, is he involved with that or an
Not
organization? No,
that,
Pat.
not that one. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. He's a
yeah,
different one. I know he's
the one that I'm a board member of is more Jersey Shore. Uh,
right.
and then Jersey Jazz is the magazine I write for. That's
Right.
Stanford Josephson, and that's more North Jersey focused, which is
Yeah.
to interview a lot of I do a monthly column there, so that's why I get a lot of the Marcus Millers and stuff on the show.
Right, right. Okay.
But
It's a really
yeah,
fine. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there's a really fine guitarist. Speaking of guitarists that you may know who lives down by the shore too. Well, there's more than one, but I think he's definitely knows some folks that teach at Monmouth because he brought up with me. But David O'Rourke,
Oh yeah,
know
I know David.
David.
I play with David.
Oh,
Yeah,
great. Yeah, yeah.
I'm primarily a bass player. So
Oh, okay.
I did a gig with Dave, and he's going to come on the show actually. Really
Oh,
nice.
great. I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying to book it for a while, but yeah, David's great. Yeah, the Jersey, we have quite a few players down here. It's nice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've played with some folks down there and with David. We've done gigs together and then David was also or is still because it's ongoing the jazz standard, the jazz discovery program that we have and the jazz standard youth orchestra is an ongoing entity too that Dave was been a director of for now like 20 years.
yeah, so he just did an event with us. He had his students play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
I wasn't able to make it because I was on a gig, but I heard it went very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he's a newer friend. I just met him maybe like 6 months ago, but I've known of David for a while. And
Yeah.
yeah, very nice
And
guy.
then there's this massive, interesting development with Netflix and some others
Yeah,
and in down in Oceanport
right.
where the fort used to be the
Yeah.
army.
Yeah, so I'm about 15 minutes from there, 10, 15 minutes from there.
Oh yeah, so you guys are really close. Yeah. Okay. Well, we have to hang sometime or play.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. Cool, man. So are you
All
in the
right.
city? You live in the city?
No, based in South Orange, New Jersey, actually.
Oh, you're in South Orange.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm there all the time. So the SoPac. Okay, cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
okay. Well, my wife, small world, because my wife, Undine Landa Abramson, was the first executive director for SOPAC for its first 6 years of its existence.
Okay, cool. I read a lot of articles for them when they have an artist coming by, and
Okay,
I play in
yeah.
that
That's
area. I'm in Montclair a lot. I'm all
oh,
I'm all around that area.
man, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. In
Well,
fact,
that's two.
Montclair Country Club last week, 2 weeks in a row. I've been there actually.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Who you play with?
that was a more of a like a wedding type band. It was called Platinum,
Okay.
but a whole bunch of people. I used to play a lot when I lived in Belleville. I used to
Uh-huh.
I used to play at Trumpets Jazz Club. I was kind of like
Yeah.
the house bass player there. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
played with Ted Curson every week and Bruce Williams
Oh
and
man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all those guys.
Yeah, those cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and you know sure you're familiar with because I've been involved also with Christian and Melissa with the Jazz House Kids program.
I am somewhat familiar. Yeah, Christian's a guy. So I wrote my most recent book is on Ray Brown. So
Oh, so you talked to
but
Christian, I gather.
only via email and only a long time. I tried to get him to do the liner.
Oh my God.
He's such a busy guy, and I'm trying to get his attention for the jazz cruise because I think this would be because he's doing a Ray Brown jazz cruise.
You know,
Um,
offline, send me. I'm happy to.
oh, cool. Yeah,
I know Christian. I can't promise anything, but I'm happy to like
I'm fairly
have
certain
him
he's
on.
aware of who I am. It's just we just
No, I'm sure, but I
yeah,
mean, I'm happy to bring it to
that'd
a
be great.
and
I
just
really
say
appreciate
like, hey, I just did interview thing when he's got
Yeah.
this Gal Ray Brown, that you should.
Yeah. If nothing else, I'd like to get a book to him, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Oh yeah, no, of course, yeah, yeah.
you
No,
know,
he's a good guy. Yeah, he's crazy busy,
yeah.
obviously, but
I met him once or twice, and he's very friendly, very nice. But
yeah,
it's hard to pin him down.
yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, something that with for Ray, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. But I don't know if
Ray
I.
and James Brown. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, yeah. Those are two guys. I know.
yeah,
I know. It's so awesome. Yeah, but he's obviously a musical hero of mine. You know.
yeah. Oh yeah, so amazing.
It's crazy. Yeah. Cool. So I don't know if I have your email or your, because I think I got this through April. So
Okay.
I'm gonna end the interview now, and if you can hang for just 1 second.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Cool. Let me just stop it.
Okay.
But thanks again for being here.
Oh man, my pleasure. Thank you.